Hello everyone, this is Cherie, and this is my January 2025 wrap-up vlog. I'll be discussing all the media I consumed, as well as the projects I've been working on. Let's start off with the books, or rather, book. I read one book in January, The Bitter End by Alexa Dunn. Now, I've been a big fan of Alexa Dunn's. I have all of her books. This is her most recent. And I had purchased it in late November, started it, but then I put it aside. I was bumping against it because it was written in multiple POVs. So you had a bunch of characters. I think you have like 9 characters. 8 of them are students, so they're all around the same age. They all go to the same school. And I was having a hard time differentiating between each character when the POV changed in the chapters. So what I did is when I started it again, I made this little cheat sheet that I kept as the bookmark. And so I wrote all the characters' names and their little distinguishing features, and then I was able to read it and get along in the story, basically. So after that, it was smooth sailing. I loved the concept. It's a closed mystery. They're all stuck in a chalet in Colorado during a storm, and people start dying. So it's really cool, but you just have to get the understanding of all the characters and all the different POVs. Another thing is that 2 sets of characters had the same initials. So there were 2 characters that started with the initial D and 2 characters that started with the initial W, and that gets confusing. If you're writing a screenplay or a book, it's best to stay away from that. Try to get every character to have a different first initial to their name. It'll make it so much easier on the readers. Next up, screenplays. I read 3 in January. All were previous Best Original Screenplay Oscar winners. I read American Beauty, Fargo, and Good Will Hunting. Now, I have to admit, when I was reading them, I was really not in the mood for any of these. But the one that was the smoothest to read for me was American Beauty, which is funny because American Beauty is kind of like a problematic film now, so we don't talk about it. But the script was really well written. On to movies. Now, I had originally intended to do a letterboxed wrap-up video like I've seen so many YouTubers do recently. However, I watched a lot of movies in January due to the Oscar nominations that were going to be announced and what I thought might be nominated and all the shortlist videos. So I had a bunch of documentaries, I had a bunch of short films, and I don't review those because those aren't my wheelhouse, basically. And so I didn't really want to go through and just, mention all those when I didn't really review them. If you're interested in seeing everything I watched, I will link my Letterboxd account in the description box below. But let's move on to the Oscar nomination announcements. The 2025 Oscar nominations were announced on January 23rd. And right off the bat, the Best Original Screenplay nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5, and The Substance. So I make it a point every year to read all the Best Original Screenplay nominees. And I already read The Substance last year, so I have the other 4 to go through. Now, I've seen Anora and The Brutalist, but I haven't seen A Real Pain or September 5, so I want to see those movies before I read the scripts. But all of them are available online in PDF form if you're interested in reading them yourself. All right, for movies. I want to start off by talking about my favorite films watched in January that either weren't nominated for Oscars or were from different years. Starting with The Beast. The Beast is a French sci-fi surrealistic film. I really loved it. I think it was released in 2023 originally, but the US got it in 2024. So essentially it could have been France's submission for the Oscars. However, they nominated Emilia Perez, which was not my favorite by far. I would have rather they nominated The Beast, but you know, that's what happened. Next up, we're going in alphabetical order. Grave of the Fireflies. This was the third Studio Ghibli film, and it is lovely. It's kind of depressing, but it's lovely, and I can't wait to watch it again in the future. And then there's Kneecap. This is an Irish film. I wish that this had been nominated. It was so fun. It's about an Irish rap group that does all their rapping in the Irish language, which kind of upsets everyone who's like trying to make everyone just speak English. And yeah, it's delightful. It was on Netflix when I watched it, and it might still be there. So if it is and you have Netflix, please give it a watch. Kneecap. And next, The Last Showgirl. This was directed by Gia Coppola, who is the niece of Sofia Coppola, and it has a very similar dreamy, personal quality to it that Sofia's movies have. It's about a performer who has been a part of a show for, I think, like 40 years or something, and the show is closing, and she has to think about what is she going to do with her life now. And it stars Pamela Anderson, who gives a great performance. Her best friend is played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who also gives a great performance. And Dave Bautista, oh my gosh, I didn't know he could act so well. I thought he was fantastic. And I don't know, I love it. I love it because it took place in Vegas, and you don't see a lot of films that take place there. It's great to see different places in movies besides the stereotypical ones like LA and New York and Paris, you know. Yeah, I really adored The Last Showgirl. Next up, Pierrot le Fou. It's by Jean-Luc Godard, and I absolutely adored it. I gave it 4 stars. I would have given it 4.5 or 5, but there is this one scene with yellow face. So yeah, if they had taken that out, this would have been like probably a 5-star film for me. But the interesting thing is I also watched a film by Godard that was made 2 years after this one called Weekend, and I absolutely hated that movie. So it's just so funny because, you know, it's not about the director necessarily, it's about the film. And then the final one I want to talk about is Revenge. Revenge was Coralie Farjat's first feature. And this is about a woman who goes to a retreat with her boyfriend, and his friends show up for a hunting trip, and things go very bad from there. If you're a fan of The Substance, watch Revenge. You will see some of the same like stylistic things in that film that she brought over to The Substance, like, you know, the close-ups of people eating and the really gross sound effects and just the bright colors and just kind of this ultra violence. It's really fun. It's not as body horror as The Substance, but if you like The Substance, I think you will also like Revenge. And now on to my favorite of the Oscar nominees. Now, I haven't seen all of the nominees yet. I still have, I believe, 16 feature films to watch and 6 shorts. But of the ones I have seen, I really loved Wicked Part 1 and The 688. Now, The 688 was only nominated for Best Song, and it's a Diane Warren song. I thought it was a wonderful movie, and the song worked really well. And of all the 5 songs, because I've listened to all of them, that's the one that's the hookiest for me. So I actually hope Diane Warren does get a competitive Oscar win this year. And now on to the Harvard PhD narrative film list. I got through the next 10, number 151 through 160. I had already seen a few of these, and I have to say, of the ones that I hadn't seen that I watched, I wouldn't want to watch them again. I understand why they're on the list and their place in history, but a lot of them were just really depressing. So for the ones that I had watched that I would probably watch again, I will recommend The Housemaid from 1960 and Peeping Tom, also from 1960. And that's it for the media I consumed in January 2025. I also am still working on the budget for my indie feature, The 99%. And I had a really great Zoom session with Jeff Howard regarding my script, Dumpster Donna. And he gave me a bunch of great suggestions to get the page count down because it is a little long at 114 pages. I had originally wanted it to be a 100-page comedy, um, but right now it's 114. I gotta, get rid of some of the stuff. And so I'm going to go back in and make edits based on his suggestions. He also had just a couple of things to really, make the characters like fall, really pop, and just to show, what was at stake. And so these are scenes that I have to kind of rewrite. And then once I do that, I will start pitching it. I have started a pitch deck for it that I will show you in a video once I've gotten to the place where the script is just done as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it was really good, and I really appreciate him going over everything with me. He gave me a huge compliment. He said that my writing was like peak Tina Fey. And I love Tina Fey. So I even went and rewatched Mean Girls after he said that because it's like, ooh. So that was it for the month of January. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.